Hello, my name's Aurelio Voltaire. I am not super rich and I'm not super famous, but I've been making a living from my art and my music for over 20 years. And if that's something that you want to do, I think I can help you. Now, today happens to be the 4th of July. There are fireworks crackling outside of my window. Under normal circumstances, that would be a big no-no for me for shooting a vlog. But today, I think it's the perfect occasion because I think this is the video where there's going to be some information that can really liberate you and lead to your independence, making a living from your art. Now, we're going to start out with this question. If a tree falls in the forest and there's no one around to hear it, does it make a sound? Well, that question's been annoying the crap out of scientists and laymen for decades. I have a better question. How about this one? If you're the greatest artist in the world and no one's ever heard of you, does your art exist? The answer to that question really depends on what you want from your art. If you want your art to be a hobby, then yes, it exists because you've made it, it has enriched you, and there it is. But if you want to make a living from your art, then the answer is no. Because you can't sell art and make a career from your art if people don't know it exists. So, how do you go from being an artist that no one's ever heard of to being an artist that enough people have heard of that you're making a living? One word, folks. The answer is promotion. Now, people think that I'm a professional musician, filmmaker, author, etc., but that's not true. What I actually am is a professional selfie taker and quite possibly a social media junkie. Or at least that's how it feels. Here's a horrifying revelation for you. I spend roughly 10% of my time making art and the other 90% of my time promoting the art. And that is what it takes to get the word out about your work. Now, before we move forward, there's a big secret that I want to let you in on that so few musicians understand. You are not a person. You are not a human being. From this moment forward, if you wish to make a living from your art, you need to stop viewing yourself as a person and you need to start viewing yourself and your art as your brand. Now, you've all heard of Coca Cola, right? Billions of people in the world drink Coca Cola. Why is that? Because billions of people know about Coca Cola. Now, Coca Cola is not shy about marketing and promoting itself. They have teams of God knows how many people out there every single day making sure that people find out about Coca Cola and are reminded that it exists and are encouraged to drink it. You need a department like that. Now, I don't expect you're going to go out and hire a brand manager and a bunch of people to do this work for you. So, like myself, you're going to do this on your own, which is why you're going to spend 90% of your time doing this. So, step one, see yourself as a brand. How do you do that? How do you start? I think it's very, very helpful to have a logo. This is the Coca Cola logo. You all recognize it. You see it, you immediately know what it is. This is my logo. Now, what does this logo say about my brand? For one, the font is kind of gothy, so whatever I do must be kind of gothic. There's some skulls in there, so obviously it involves the macabre, but those skulls are not super realistic, they're kind of cartoony, so quite possibly I do something kind of gothy that involves the macabre, but has a sense of humor to it. And I think this logo kind of encapsulates what I'm trying to present, I think, pretty well. So the first thing you really want to do is you want to create a logo or get someone to create a logo for you, so whenever they see it, they are reminded of your brand. The next thing you absolutely positively need is a website. You have to have an official home on the World Wide Web, a place where people can go and listen to your music or see your art, find out where you're playing, look at your calendar, find out your bio, all of these things. If there's something about you they want to know, there's a place, an official place where they can find out. You cannot rely on social media for people to find out these things, and I'll tell you why that is later. But for instance, Facebook is engineered to fail. So if I put my tour dates only on Facebook, a great majority of the people who actually follow me will never see them. There needs to be a place where people who are really interested in you can go periodically and find out if you have new work coming out, a new album, if you have a tour coming up, all of these things. very, very important. You must have a website. I personally recommend hostbaby.com. That's what I use. It has a really easy template system, so you don't need to hire someone who knows HTML to build you a website. You can literally do it yourself by picking the background, picking the font, and putting it together yourself. It's very important. This is something you really need. But now, once you have a website, the biggest question you will have, because this is everybody's biggest question, is how do I get people to visit my website? Nobody ever comes to my website. And that's where social media comes in. The analogy that I like to use is that social media is a bar and your website is your home. The fact of the matter is, a lot of people are not going to just pop into your home. Where do you meet people? You don't meet them inside your apartment, you meet them at a bar. So you go to places like Facebook, you start a page, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is, and you get to know people there. You interact with people there. And the goal should always ultimately be to drive that traffic to your website, and the holy grail is to get people to sign up for your mailing list. You should have a mailing list. You should be collecting people's names and addresses, email addresses, so that when you have a tour, you send that out, and let's say hypothetically there's 1,000 people on your mailing list. Those 1,000 people will receive your tour dates. If you rely on social media, that is not going to happen. You are not going to reach these people, and I will tell you why. Social media is fickle. It's a very temporary, it just as bars come in and out of favor, social media is the same way. I'll tell you a quick story. Back in the MySpace days, I had something like 60,000 followers on MySpace. I was releasing my very first independently released album, To the Bottom of the Sea. I'd just gotten off a record label. This was my first album I was putting out. And I sent out a message on MySpace. I said, hey, this album will not be in stores. If you want a copy, you need to pre-order one right now. Just send $20 to my PayPal account. I received 1,200 orders that week, and I had to put the brakes on it because I'd only made 2,000 copies of the album and I needed some to sell at DragonCon. So I went from having something like $12 in my PayPal account to having about $30,000 in my PayPal account in about a week. It was shocking and it was amazing, and the reason that happened was because MySpace actually delivered my message to the 60,000 people who were interested in my message. It worked very well. Well, a year later, literally only 1 year later, I put out my next album. I did the same exact thing. I said, hey everybody, my new album's coming out. It's gonna be sold only directly through me. I sold 300 copies, from 1,200 to 300. And largely, I think the reason was that everybody had left MySpace. Like rats from a sinking ship, they had all migrated to Facebook. Now, Facebook was new, I didn't know much about it, and I was being old and cantankerous, and I was like, I don't want to start a new social media page. So guess what? I lost contact with 60,000 customers. They were gone. I eventually realized I had no choice and I started a Facebook page, but you can't go out and find all of those people again. So it took years until I got back up to around 60,000 followers on Facebook. And there's no telling these are even the same people. Now, what if those 60,000 people had signed up for my mailing list at Voltaire.net? I would have never ever lost contact with them. I would have always been sending my message directly to their home, which is their email address. So I learned a very, very valuable lesson. You must always try to get people to follow you to your webpage. Now the problem is the great majority of people will not sign up for your mailing list. Why? Because they don't want to go to your house. They want to go to the bar. They want to go to the place where they can argue with strangers and look at pictures of kittens. And they can't argue with strangers and look at pictures of kittens on your website. So it is a constant struggle, and I find myself constantly repeating myself on Facebook saying, oh, you missed the show in Germany? You didn't know I was in Germany? You didn't know I was in your hometown last week? Sign up for the mailing list at Voltaire.net and you will always know when I'm playing near you. This is a message that ultimately needs to be repeated over and over and over again. So to recap, your home is your website. How do you drive traffic to your home? You meet those people in the social environments. Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, Instagram, and when a new one pops up, if that's where everyone's going, you get there before they do. And that's really, ultimately, what you need to be doing. How frequently should we be posting? I post every single day on Instagram. It's not always about my work. In fact, it's rarely about my work. It's very often, I'm having a coffee at this place, or I met up with so-and-so at this place, or I'm recording an album and here we are in the studio. But giving people a window into your life keeps them engaged and also shows them that you're a real human being. So if they like the work, rather than just, stealing it from the internet, they may actually feel obliged to want to support you if they get to know you as a person. So do not start a social networking page and have someone else run it. I think that's a big mistake. Start your social networking pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and wherever else you think is reasonable, and run it yourself so that when someone hits that contact button, when someone hits that message button, they're speaking directly to you. I think that's very valuable. That's how I run my business, if you will, and I think it works really, really well. I should probably point out before we continue that I am in fact aware that I'm doing a reverse strip tease here. I think my clothing has been getting more and more buttoned up with each segment. In any case, do not diminish the power of promoting in person. Who could possibly be more passionate about your art than you? So talk to people about your art. Do not be embarrassed to hand somebody a business card to say, "Hi, I'm a musician, check out my band," or "Hey, I'm an author, here's my new book." I want to tell you about something I used to do at my very, very first shows. In fact, I had this at my very first show ever. This is called the Book of the Dead. And during my set, somewhere towards the end, I would say to people, I would hold this up and I would say, "This is the Book of the Dead. If you write your name and mailing address in here, you will die. Someday, maybe, probably not really soon." And they'd all laugh, but it was very gimmicky. Everybody kind of wanted to, there was some drawings in there. I'm gonna cover these addresses so you can't see them, but I'd make some creepy drawings in here. This book I made myself. It was a brand new sketchbook, but I weathered the pages and made it all creepy. And it's kind of gimmicky and fun, and people would want to come up and write their name and address in the Book of the Dead. And then guess what? I had all their names and addresses, all the people who came to my first few shows. So every single time I had a new show, I would print up some little flyers and I'd put them in a black envelope with a rubber bat and a pin or something and a sticker, and I'd send it to them. And I would say, "I'm playing next week at Salvation," or wherever. And this is how I kept in touch with people very early in my career, before there was an internet. So if you have shows, if you're a musician and you have concerts, if you're an artist and you have gallery openings, or if you're an author and you have readings, have a mailing list. Get people's names. Now, you probably don't need their mailing addresses anymore, although that's still kind of cool to send them something neat in the mail. But you can always get their name and mailing address or email address, and then you can keep in contact with the people who witnessed your art, experienced your art, and decided that they liked it. You're doing them a favor, just as they are doing you a favor by continuing to support and to come to your shows. Now, I did mention that when I sent people little packages in the mail, they weren't just a flyer. It was never just a flyer with a sticker. It was always something with added value. I want to talk to you about that. All right, now the shirt's buttoned up all the way. You happy now? Now we really look like we're in business. Promoting in person is very, very valuable. There's certain things that work and certain things that work better. Added value is very, very important. Let me give you an example. Let's say hypothetically you have a band that sounds kind of like Rob Zombie. A great idea is to go to the Rob Zombie concert and stand outside and hand flyers to people and say, "Hey, wasn't the show amazing? If you like that, I think you would like my band," and hand them a flyer. Now, people are going to look at a flyer and 99% of them are going to toss it. They may not do it in front of you, they may put it in their pocket and then toss it later, but most people will not keep a flyer because it doesn't really enhance their life in any way. A better idea would be to hand them a CD. You imagine printing up some CDs, maybe it's got 2 or 3 of your songs with like a nice little cover, nothing fancy, you know, just maybe in an envelope. Handing something like that to someone, they might go, all right, free music, I'll give this a listen. Band stickers. Handing somebody your band sticker, let me show you something. Here's a band sticker of mine. It says Voltaire. You know who would be interested in this sticker? People who are already fans. Anybody who is not already a fan is going to look at your band sticker, they're going to go, oh, okay, Dark Macabre Armada. So what? And they chuck it. However, what if, adding value to the sticker, you were able to give them something they might actually want to use? Here's another Voltaire sticker. Doesn't have a logo on it, just has a really cool design. Somebody might look at this and say, hey, that would look good on my car, that would look good on my coffin. So there's a reason for someone to keep this. Now, in tiny little print, it has my website, so there's your hook. Here's another example. I Was Raised by Bats. Happens to be the name of one of my albums, happens to be the name of one of my songs. But this is something that somebody who's into goth music or the macabre might look at and go, that's funny, that's cool, yeah, I can relate to that. And they might want to put this on a possession of theirs. And once again, my website is super, super tiny at the bottom. If somebody's interested in finding out where this came from and what this is all about, they can look me up. Here's another one, Dead Girls Like Me. That's going to appeal to a certain percentage of the population. And they might love the sticker. And again, this is added value. This is handing something to someone where you're not begging them to help you. You're giving them something that they are going to benefit from. This is cool. I like this. I want this. This is a good thing to get for free. Now, getting back to flyers for a moment, I had become completely sick to death of what I like to call the New York handshake. Every single time I'd go to a nightclub, by the end of the night, I had run into maybe 24 people who said, oh my God, hi, how are you? Come to my show. And they'd hand me a flyer. So my pockets would just be full of flyers for different events. And of course, most of them I just threw away. So I thought to myself, well, I need to advertise my upcoming shows and I have to hand people flyers. What can I give them that has added value? What can I give them that gives them something other than the information for the show? And I came up with this. Ash cans. Ash can is sort of comic book terms for a tiny little mini comic book. Now, this is an 8-page comic book. I used to call these Oh My Goth. And in these 8-page comic books that I would draw, I would be always getting chased by the minions of Satan and sometimes extraterrestrials. And they would always be trying to stop me from playing my next show. And on the last page, the information for the next show would be all printed there. So people could read a comic book, and then at the end there's actually some information for something I really want you to do, which is to come to my show. I would print hundreds of these at Kinko's, which I guess is now called FedEx Office, and I would hand them out at goth clubs. And I can't even begin to tell you what an amazing sight it was to see 150 goth kids all sitting on the floor reading a little mini comic book and kind of chortling to themselves. This was a great way to promote my next show, because here's the thing about added value. If I just hand you a flyer that has the info for my show and I say, come to my show, I'm in the position of weakness and you're in the position of strength. I'm saying, please do me a favor and come to this. However, if I make something like this and hand it to you, now I have given you entertainment. You have been entertained. I mean, presuming that it's entertaining. You have been entertained. If you got a chuckle from reading my little 8-page comic book, you might think to yourself, this guy's funny. This guy's entertaining. Wow, if he entertained me for the last 2 minutes while I was reading his free little comic book, I'd probably be very entertained at his 1-hour show. These were so useful. And incidentally, for those aspiring comic book fans out there, there ended up being an audience for these. I ended up making like 8 or 11 of these, and I ended up getting signed to a comic book company who commissioned me to do an entire Oh My Goth comic book series. So it had a second life in the comic book world. But added value. Anytime you can remove yourself from just giving them information and give them an experience. Give them a rubber bat. Give them a little skull. I used to make little skull pendants and I'd give them to people, and attached to the, between the skull pendant and the pin was a flyer with the information for my show. Give people an experience. Move them make them think, make them laugh, make them cry, and they will want to see the rest of your art. Okay, so apparently it was too hot to have my shirt buttoned up, so we're gonna loosen up a little bit. I have a riddle for you. What do Sasquatch, the Loch Ness Monster, and shameless self-promotion have in common? The answer is none of them exist. Remember earlier when I compared you to Coca Cola? Coca Cola has dozens upon dozens of brand managers. They have thousands of marketing and promotion people working for them. You don't. So you have to be all of those people. You have to do the job of all of those people for your brand. And do you know what that's called? That's called self-promotion. You have to be the very spearhead of self-promoting so that people find out about your amazing work. So let me tell you something right now. If people try to tell you that there's something shameful about trying to be successful, there's something shameful about promoting your brand and bringing it to the awareness of the general public, that person is someone who's never ever going to find success in life through their own work. Maybe they'll have success working for someone else, but they're never ever going to find success in life as an entrepreneur or as a business person whose business is promoting their own work. So do not listen to those people. They have a problem, and that problem is called false modesty. Let me tell you something. Everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to be liked, and everybody working for the man would much rather be working for themselves, doing what they love. All of that false modesty is a lie. It stinks. It's bullpucky. It's hogwash. It's balderdash. It's crap. Don't fall for it. Oh my God, you Google yourself? Googling yourself is so arrogant. Said no successful business person ever. I assure you, Coca-Cola's brand managers are Googling Coca-Cola all day long, and they're not embarrassed about it. And nor should you be. You need to know what people are saying about your work. You need to know what people are saying about your brand, positive and negative. Sometimes, you know, like in my notifications on Facebook, which is a form of Googling yourself, if I see somebody says, oh, it was my birthday today and my friend sent me Voltaire's song, Happy Birthday, My Old Friend, and I'm tagged, I will go to that person's page and say, happy birthday. I'm glad you're enjoying my song. And they're thrilled to bits. I'm engaging with them. If I see someone say something negative about me, if I see someone post like, oh, his new album is the worst piece of crap I ever heard, I will go to their page and I will say, I am so sorry that you didn't like the new album. Perhaps the next one will be more to your liking. Engaging people like that shows people that you care about your brand and you can see what people are saying, positive and negative. Where are you succeeding? Where are you failing? What do you need to do better? You find out these things by Googling yourself or by looking at notifications and seeing when people tag you on Twitter, when people tag you on Instagram, when people tag you on Facebook. Going and seeing what people are saying and very cordially and politely addressing their issues if they have issues, or thanking them if they're showing support. Oh my God, you wear your own band t-shirt? That's so arrogant. Let me tell you something. As the spearhead of your own self-promotion department, you need to be the most excited about your brand. If you can't proudly walk down the street wearing that shirt with your logo on it, who should be proud to wear it? Who else would wear it? You need to be the first person proud to wear it. So when people say dumb stuff like that, I just tell them right out. I say, this is my brand. I'm very proud of my brand. I like to believe I make quality work. At least I certainly try to. And I want to put that work forward into the world. Isn't that what you do with your work? Or are you ashamed of what you do? Sometimes if I really don't want an argument, I just say, there's a box with 150 of these shirts next to my bed, and it's laundry day. But honestly, you should never be embarrassed about these things. I have a Voltaire sticker on my laptop, and literally somebody looking over my shoulder went, oh my God, you have like your own sticker on your laptop? I said, this is my laptop! Whose name do you think should be on my laptop? Yours? It blows my mind just how twisted people get about this sense of shameless self-promotion, and they're so entrenched in this false modesty. The truth of the matter is, everybody loves themselves, and everybody wants the world to love them even more. It's a bunch of crap. Don't fall for it. Believe in your work and go out there and promote your work. You deserve to succeed. Don't let anybody stand in the way of that with their false modesty. There is so much more that I want to tell you. I could talk about promotion for hours and hours and hours, but I've already spoken for far too long for one vlog, so I'm going to call it the end here. However, I do want to say this. I guess I struck a nerve with that very first vlog about getting started when I talked about fear of rejection, fear of negative reviews and people criticizing you, because there was a lot of comments, that wanted me to dig deeper into that. So the next vlog is going to be just that. It's going to be how to deal with rejection, how to deal with people who are ignoring you, they don't want to book you, they don't want to sign you, and more importantly, how to deal with haters, how to deal with people telling you you suck on the internet. I have really, really great coping mechanisms for these things, and I like to believe that I have a really, really healthy perspective on how to approach these things so that you don't feel injured, but actually empowered in a strange sort of way. So let me share that with you. If you have enjoyed this video, if you have found it entertaining and or hopefully informative, please subscribe to the channel so that you know when the next one's happening. Please like the video, and most importantly, leave me a comment about what you want some advice on, and I will cover that in one of the future videos. Thank you so much for watching The Future Rockstar's Handbook.